Welcome to the Art of Conscious Living TV. I'm very pleased to have as my guest today, SunRay Kelley, via Skype. He is a natural builder, self-taught, and a man who is living a complete conscious life. We're going to be speaking about his building of all his beautiful structures that he does and his way of living in this world, living from his heart. So let's take a moment to look at this video clip.
Beyond thinking, I feel I have this deeper calling. I feel like deep in my DNA, and I believe it's the same in everyone, that we were put on this planet to caretake this planet and to nourish this beautiful garden. This is why humans were created, is to caretake this planet. And I think that our true joy will come when we really embrace that as a whole human species, and it's a lot about our recognition that we're all akin, we're all part of the same whole, that only cooperation moves us in the right direction, So I'm just offering this as a path for people to consider, because I think the joy that we find in doing this will be the compensation, and everyone will get it, So that's kind of my dream, that I'm dreaming, and will continue to dream as long as I'm here and as long as I can continue to, provide that as a means for people to reconnect to the earth, and reconnect to each other, and experience this incredible connectedness of everything in the universe. And long gone will be the thoughts of separatism and loneliness and despair will all kind of disappear as we are joyously embraced in cultivating the most beautiful garden that the universe has ever seen, which this planet is, in spite of the fact that we haven't did a really great job of caretaking it in the past, say, where we've actually created a lot more desert here than any other creature certainly ever has. And we're supposed to be caretaking it, so there's despair in the world. That's where I think it comes from, and I think that there is an answer and a solution to just having a greater, more wonderful life for everybody, So that's the Garden of Eden spiel, I guess. In a coziness,
About the moments where you ever feel a great feeling of overwhelming bliss within inside yourself. You feel this great happiness that wells up within you, that sometimes you feel you can't even hardly contain it. Or do you contain it? What is your experience with that?
It's that whole idea of containment, it's really uncontainable, what I mean? There's no container big enough. It's the whole universe in ecstatic motion, Rumi says, stop being so small. You are the universe in ecstatic motion, And when I hear things like that, there's this like, oh, wow, okay, it's okay to have all this light show going on here and sparks going off and everything, because that's who you are, I mean, we're so conditioned to be so small, so tiny little nothing nothings. And we're this the vastness of the universe. It's like, come on, people, wake up, be free, be open, be imaginative, be creative, let it happen. You know, this is the joy of living. You know, this is what excites me.
Yes, well, let's speak about your creative. You're creative. You live on this incredible property up in the Washington Mountains, quite isolated, and you've built these incredible houses that is a labor of love, to say the least. And it's all handcrafted by your hands, and it's a labor of putting this incredible magical energy into these living structures that you have built. You're sitting in one of those homes right now. And so let's speak about that. How long have you been on this property, and when did you start doing these incredible structures?
Well, I think it really, I incarnated here on this property very much with this intention to really enter this deep relationship with the land here and stuff. You know, it's even coming in. I was born here 63 years ago now.
You were born in that area of Washington Mountains?
Born in this house, or it's not this house, but in the house I grew up in and lived for 18 years. My brother still lives there. He's my neighbor, you know. We live on the same land. I've had this relationship, this kindred relationship with the planet Earth here for 63 years, you know, playing as a child in this same forest that I play today. My life hasn't changed that much. I stay home and I play all day long on the land that I love and in the gardens that I love and with all the trees that are my dearest of dear friends, you know. It's
What do you call the house that you're in right now?
we call this the garden house, you know.
The garden house. And what is the actual shape and structure of it, and the design of it?
Well, it's a solar house. I mostly always try to incorporate a solar design to the house, so it runs kind of on a east-west kind of axis, and it's not very deep. It's only like 20 feet deep, so the light penetrates, as you can see behind me, the whole house from the south. And I'm a lover of nature. I want to be immersed in it. So the whole concept of the garden house is to cover it with living plants and a living house. And this is evolved into my work here. And then more and more, I keep incorporating, wanting to build structures that are completely alive, that actually, my whole thing here is when I first started thinking about this whole idea of a garden roof or putting the earth back on the roof, it dawned on me that this takes me from a minus to the ecosystem to a plus, because there's more surface area here in this house than there was in its footprint, and all that is used for gardening and space. Then every house we build is a plus to the ecosystem. Normally, it's a problem for solar because it's all this roof with nothing growing on it. It's a heat sink, and it also is a runoff problem. So both of those problems are mitigated by putting the plant life back on top of the house or on the surface of the house.
So you're living a very sustainable life, a life of off the grid and very much green living.
Well, not exactly. We are on the grid. We do have electric power that we're using. We're trying to supplement that with, I have a little electric, hydroelectric plant that I run, and we are getting the solar moving here more and more, but...
Okay. But eventually you would like to be 100% solar and
Oh yeah, 100% for sure. Actually, I want to be a net gain to the world, so I want to produce more power than I'm using, because think that that's a wise thing to do, is to have more than you need so you can be generous and give it away to the rest of humanity.
Right. So some of your other structures on your property, one of your property, it almost looks like a dragon. I mean, it looks very artistic, and it's got a lot of, uh, how do you say it? It looks like things are coming off of it that are spears, and it's very much very artistic, to say the least. What do you tell me about these structures? How do you sketch them out first, or do you just start them and they just manifest as you're doing them?
Both. Both happens.
Okay.
I practice what I call evolutionary architecture.
Yes.
Which means I don't have the whole picture today. Tomorrow another picture will come, a different idea will come, and if I'm free and I can flow with that, then all is beautiful and harmonious. But if I'm restricted by some idea that this plan is already created and it doesn't have any, I can't deal with restriction. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me, you know. I need to be have this openness that's really open to the moment, and so in my work I allow that to happen a lot, and it's a really fun and amazing process, you know. And it's
So tell me some of the things that will kind of talk to your intuitiveness. If you find a piece of wood or a certain shape of wood, or then that, and you may want to add that to the structure, then that wasn't in the initial design, but that's going to speak to you on that certain day, so you're going to incorporate that into the process. Is that kind of how it works?
yeah, exactly how it works. I find, nature, you know, she's my mother and she's my muse, and she is the one that's constantly showing me what art is, what beauty is, and I just have a little bit of a mimic of her. I use her in my art. There's not a thing that I can create without her. And so, again, in a kind of a humble sort of way, I try to just go, wow, that's so beautiful, those shapes and forms you create. How do I mix them together, kind of like a composer would the notes of a play or something, you know? I'm more of a mixer of notes than I am, I don't know, anything else, I guess, you know.
What do you think of the straw bale houses?
I love straw bale houses. I'm all about straw bale houses. Straw bale houses are a tremendous asset. They're so warm. They take so little energy to build. They're easy to build, and they're warm, and they're comfortable, and it's a great solution to insulating a house. It's my favorite.
So let's say if you were to build a relatively small one, maybe 1,000 square feet, how long would it take from beginning to the end if you had yourself doing it only?
Well, that's highly unlikely I'll ever have just myself doing it, because I tend to like to work with people.
Okay.
And always have a couple crew members along to help me lift and move, and just, there's power in number. There's power that if I have a helper, I get more than twice as much done.
So ideally, if you have 3 crew members and yourself, and from beginning to the end, it would take perhaps how many months to complete it?
And then there's different elements to it, the way I do it, because like I will put up a timber frame for my structural, which takes care of all the engineering details, so that the walls support nothing, and then we just come in and put up the bale walls. 1,000 square foot, 2 months,
And at what price can you put together 1,000 square feet in 2 months? Because you got the hay bale, you got wire, chicken wire in there, and then you got the elements of earth for the pigmentation, which instead of using synthetic plaster, they would be using all of the pigments of sand and earth, and what else is going in there? Water, of course.
Water, sand, earth, you know, oils, waxes,
Yes.
pigments, different types of pigments for coloring and stuff. You know, I kind of like to do like a Van Gogh type palette when I color my walls, just because I can, and I'm not into just any one shade. I like all the colors, and I like the dance between them. It's I can't get possibly that boring to only think in one tone, you know.
Okay.
What can I say? You know, it's just.
So
You
approximate.
know, I leave behind things that don't work for me. I just drop them and let go of them, and I move on to what does work. Yeah, and I'm constantly experiencing this magical quality of life that when everything's working, everything is in harmony with the universe, and time becomes meaningless. It doesn't exist. Things happen really instantaneous.
So approximate price for a straw bale house at 1,000 square foot would be, that's not counting your labor costs and all of that. So just say for the material.
Oh man.
I mean, could that be in
And that's all the pure. That's, you know, these questions are difficult for me because it's like not taking into account. Well, here in Washington, we go to the people's property and we find what materials are on the property right now that can be used in the process.
So you do a lot of bartering.
And we use materials which I call bioregionalism, and we use the materials that are locally available.
Okay.
If you've got materials that are on your property that we can use, and you're not sacrificing, you know, for some other reason, then we use them and we incorporate it, and that keeps the cost down. If we got to go buy all the materials from another source, then that raises the price. So it's
Okay, so let's take that scenario that you can get as much from the land and your neighbors and the property. The number that's coming up, is that like 25,000 perhaps?
for now. This is just about the extra materials. If they had, like, they had a timber on the land,
Yes, yeah.
had good soil for making
Yeah, the
making
foundation, you need the foundation, then you
Yeah.
need the hay bale, you need the wire, you need the material,
And there's always costs. There's always things you can't get off the land. You know, your electrical wire, your plumbing, your concrete. You know, so all those things have a cost.
yeah, well then perhaps if the person's doing solar, then
The solar definitely has a cost.
you gotta factor that in,
I know
yeah.
what a solar system, you know, is about $5 a watt for an installed solar system. I mean, I know what that cost is. I know what the
So is the 25,000 doesn't sound, it probably would be maybe to the 40,000 now.
and then there's the whole labor cost. That's the hugest part of the whole thing, really.
Well, we're hoping that we're speaking about getting family or friends.
Well, you know, I mean, what 1,000 square foot is, $100 a square foot is like 1,000, what's that, $100,000 for 1,000 square foot. You know, I mean, that's
100,000 for
yeah, that would be that would be a really good price, I think.
okay,
If,
so the bottom line is 100,000, 1,000 square feet. That includes the material and the labor.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a ballpark around there.
And that's
Okay.
yeah, and there's a lot of variabilities in that whole thing, in how we mix everything together. You know.
Yes. Well, do you have any future structures that you were wanting to build, either for yourself or do you see for clients or friends?
Well, mostly I always have things for myself that I want to do. I mean, I
Okay.
do a lot of building here on the land. I'm my favorite client, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I'd rather work for me than anybody else.
And what structure do you see coming up that you're
Well,
envisioning?
I've always got another house in mind. I've always got another stove in mind. I'm always learning by what I do, and that precipitates doing it again because you're perfecting, you're perfecting, you're perfecting. You're always perfecting. Your work, if your work is not growing and not getting better, then that doesn't make sense to me. You should always be improving your systems and your working through repetition and practice.
And what is the rule of improvement? What would that dictate to you? What shows it where the measurement of improvement is?
Well, you learn a lot more from your mistakes than you learn from your successes. I'll tell you that right now. The mistakes are where you go, wow, that's a huge learning experience here. And you have to move around and go a different direction. You have to change things. Success is, oh, that's cool. It works great. But,
All right. Well, would you share one of your mistakes from the past that you saw that could have been improved now now
well,
that you've
I've
made that
gambled
mistake?
a lot with roofing.
With
I,
what? I'm sorry.
with roofing.
Oh, roofing.
And
Yes.
how I roof. I take tremendous gambles, and I go where no one has gone before. You know what I mean? Into this, how to make it shapely and curvy and stuff. And so I've had issues with leaks, and especially around skylight issues and stuff like that. And so any more placement and perfection of doing that is really critical. I like to do most of my experimentation here at home, and then what I do for a client or whatever is much more restricted into the only things that work. I won't gamble if I'm doing something for somebody else like I will with myself.
Yes. So what is the one key factor that you learned in the way of a skylight so it would not leak now?
Well, I put them in the highest point in the building, which gives you the best light, and then the water always runs away from them. Whenever the water runs down and has to go around them, right there, that's where you get into the problems and stuff.
Okay.
You're on the very top or on the very bottom, but not in the middle. That's
Okay.
what I learned.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, if it's on a lower flat part, then the water could gather around it, and then henceforth, that's where leakage could happen.
And it happens, and definitely it's probably one of the biggest problems with skylights is that is that the potential for leak, but that's why it's a critical placement that. So that's just another thing you're learning along the way. But there's tons of things. Everything is
Yes.
teaching you something.
I
So
see.
you're all learning.
I see doors as being very important. I see like the eyes are the windows of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
I see the entrance of your front door being the entrance to what is about to proceed after you open up the door. Let's talk about doors. I mean, let's talk about some of them are arch doors. The handles that one chooses is very important. Um, if you're going to put a window in that door, what kind of wood are you going to be using for that particular door? Everything is very, very key, important. Um, what do you think?
Well,
What do you think about doors?
well, I think about the metaphysical properties of doors, that you're actually transcending space. So it's like death almost. It's going from one world into another world.
Yes.
So you want that transition to be very beautiful and harmonious and an uplifting feeling, that when you go in a door, like you feel welcomed and you feel like you want to go in there. You want to step through into the next dimension. You know what I mean? So this is the power of a door. Say, this is the power to bring you forth in yourself and in your life. So So of course I tend to spend extra time on my doors and want to build really beautiful doors and beautiful entranceways because of the power of the entranceway, you know.
So you polish the wood, you shape it, it's like letting it speak to you
I,
like
I
a work
carve
of
it a
art.
lot of times. I carve it
Yes.
and I also generally I always incorporate some level of glass in my door, some opaque type of allurement that glass brings, you know, into the element. Of course, woods are very. I mean, I don't know who could not love wood. Wood is such a beautiful, beautiful material to work with. And so there's always usually an element of wood too. Wood, uh, you know, is an important part of the element. And wood, you know, all materials, they say, you know, they've taken a little test, they've done a little test on your vibration and the materials vibration and what are the most harmonious vibrations between materials. And they say that wood is the closest to the human and the most harmonious with human soul.
What do you think about stained glass?
Oh, I love stained glass. I love light and I love glass. And like glass to me is like, oh man,
Yeah,
glass
so
is sand and heat is all the glass is.
so in particular, I'm talking about the stained glass that is in churches.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
very very colorful, and it's all. Have you incorporated any of this in your?
Oh yeah, yeah. I do stained glass in lots and lots of my doors. I love to do stained glass in the doors and beveled glass so that you get the rainbows. I love the rainbows that you get from the little beveled glass stuff. You know, I always like it in my house when the sun shines and the rainbows are cast all around. I'm not seeing any rainbows there at the moment. I'm seeing lots of flies.
And how about inside your home? Do you create your own furniture to go with the design of the house?
Yeah, I do some furniture. That's not my biggest motif that I enter into. I have entered into it and done some, you know.
Well, I see right behind you a fabulous little end table there, and it looks like the bottom of a tree, and it's carved from a piece of the flat part of the tree.
Yeah,
You've made this little end table there, yes?
yeah, yeah. That's one of my tables too. And
It's absolutely beautiful. What kind of wood is this?
well, it's cedar. The stump is a cedar stump. Which have, yeah, I've built several tables using these stump legs and stuff. I really like them and stuff. And then it's a maple burl that is top is cut from. And I also, you know, nature is full of texture. Everything is textured in nature. It has immense texture. And humans want it flat and smooth and no texture. Wait a minute, I cry because I want to feel texture, you know. So I incorporate texture into my buildings as much as possible, and we, you know, I don't know. That's all
Well,
I can say.
Sunray, in the last moments we have here, let's speak
We're
about.
already done.
No, we're not done. We have a little bit of
Oh,
we have a little bit of time,
okay.
but we're in
I
the
you told me an hour wouldn't take that long.
yeah,
Yeah,
but we are in the
I-
final stages of
okay.
being able to share this beautiful conversation together. And in saying that, I would like to bring up the what's going on in your way that you see what's going on in the planet in the way of the chaos that's happening and the diversity of opinions and the different wars and the different outlooks and the way that they're using the energy on the planet of alternative energy in the oil versus that green technology wants to come in. It's been slowly rearing its head, but there's not enough of it, of course. And we're in the interim of that. I think we're just opening up the door of the beginning of it. And let's speak about that and the way that you would see the world of how it could be in a much better way than it is right now as we go into the future?
Yeah, right away what comes to me is I'm a Hopi.
A Hopi.
There's no value in pessimism. There's no value in negativity. It's the only way we have any power is in our optimism and a hope for the future and a hope for humanity and for the children and for the planet itself. I know these are trying times for us right now. We're confronted with massive ecological disasters looming all over the place, and it is a scary time. But our only value in changing this is this recognition that we have the power to change it, that we can, through our loving attention to this planet, heal all the little problems that exist right now on the planet. And as a unified oneness voice, caring, conscious living consciousness, awakened consciousness, Christ consciousness, a consciousness that can do no harm to anyone, any being, any planet, that the idea of hurting somebody is so incredibly painful. Nobody could commit such a crime as to hurt one another. This is the hope. This is the prayer that I want to carry for the world. This is what I want to say is let's unite together and focus our attention on healing the planet, healing one another, loving one another, caring for one another, nurturing and thriving together in this joyous awakening to we are the gardeners of Eden. This is a garden planet, and we are here to nurture and care for this planet, and we will all rejoice in the bounty and the abundance that she has to offer us. So this is a very strong prayer for me. It's a very powerful prayer.
It sounds like a beautiful living prayer, a prayer that's very alive. And if you were to share some simple advice for those who are listening to us of how they can connect to what you just said, what micro little things can they do in their own lives right now?
Tear up your garden and put in your lawn and put in a garden right now. Take a walk in nature every day, at least 5 minutes, hearing natural sounds of birds and water and wind. Allowing a moment of your precious time to be just in absorbing the natural world. Put solar on your house. Demand the government to stop making war on innocent human beings anywhere. Stand up and say no to fracking. Say no to oil, no to coal. Say we have to take a stand and say we want a livable planet. We want a planet we can give to our children. That's what I have to say.
Okay. On that note, I thank you very dearly, and it was a beautiful to connect with you. And I see that you're really feeling what you've been speaking right now, and you're really in a moment of deep compassion and deep connection to it. And I really honor that in you, and I honor that you are one of the very unique individuals that are here on our planet to be a beacon of light for so many others that perhaps have forgotten about the simplicity of being in the humanity of ourselves. And I honor that in you, and I see that in you, and I thank you for everything that you do and everything that you have done and everything that you will do in the future. I totally honor that within you, SunRay. And in saying that, many blessings to you and peace and love. And thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you too, Victoria. Thank you for this whole concept of conscious living, you know. It's so gorgeous, and I'm so glad that you asked me to share my little humble part of this thing with you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Peace be with you, and peace be with everyone.
Thank you. And from the art of conscious living, please do take care of yourselves and take care of others. Thank you.